Hey gang, on one of the online groups I'm on, that's all trans related and stuff, somebody posted this thing which I personally found to be a bit odd, but whatever. They posted this thing saying, wouldn't it be cool if facial feminization surgery was available on the NHS? And you get the option to do that instead of SRS. And then she said something which I took, well, not offence to, but I thought was kind of harsh. And she was like, I'm sorry, but let's be honest, most trans women need FFS. And I was just like, excuse me. So I posted a thing saying, no, because it's a super personal choice. Some women may want to have FFS over SRS. Yeah, facial feminization surgery, sexual reassignment surgery. Okay. You know, some women might prefer that over SRS. It might be the other way around for others. So I don't think, my kind of point was that you can't make blanket statements for everybody like that. Because how each trans person sees their own body is such a highly personal thing. Like, each one of us goes on such a highly personal individual journey that what might be right for somebody is not going to be right for somebody else. And there seems to be this whole one true wayism, like, if you're going to, and I don't encounter it so much with trans guys, but I guess we don't always talk about it quite as much. But in the trans community, I find it tends to be more trans women, and this is just an observation. I'm not saying it's true or de facto or whatever, but this is just what I've observed. There seems to be this one true wayism in that you're not doing it right unless you do X, Y, and Z. So, and I just totally disagree with that. I mean, trans people are just so varied. We're exactly the same as everybody else in the fact that we're really varied. So to say that, you know, or to imply that all trans women or most trans women should do this is bollocks. I mean, okay, if that's the road you want to go down because you massively give a fuck about passing personally, great. But you know, don't say that every or most trans women should have to do this, because it's a load of shit. Frankly, like, I personally feel that this is a load of bollocks, and feel free to disagree with me, but I feel this is a load of shit. Going back to a more general thing, I think, yeah, whether you care about passing, just I have issues with anyway, is such a personal thing. Like, if you personally feel like you should look, I guess, a more stereotypical way, I guess, I can't really think of any other way of saying it, then great, go for it, you know. If you want to look like you've just rocked out of The Only Way is Essex, go nuts. Like, and that applies to anybody, cis or trans. Like, if you want to look like that, fucking go for it. But don't expect or demand everybody else look that way or follow that aesthetic, because that's ridiculous, I think. Like, I don't get it. I mean, trans guys, we have a kind of an easier time with passing, and I freely admit this because it's true. Not always, but it tends to be true in that, obviously, what hormones will do for us, we tend to pass a little, you know, easier, sooner. Again, not saying this is true for absolutely every trans guy on the planet, but, you know, once you're a few years in on hormones, like, most people, frankly, would just never be able to tell, in my opinion. Certainly, I feel for myself, once I've been on T for long enough, most people just aren't even going to fucking know. So, I mean, I guess, like, for a lot of people, the issue of being stealth and all that, of course, comes into it. I know that there is a feeling in the trans community that a lot of the time they just don't like some trans people don't want to hang out with other groups of trans people if they're stealth because they don't want to out them, because they feel like it'll out them vicariously, I guess. Which I can kind of see and I can understand, but I think it's a shame in other ways. And I guess, you know, from a personal safety point of view and things like that, I can totally get it. And, you know, from I just want to be seen as a typical man, woman, whatever. And transitioning was just a thing I did. I can absolutely understand and get that, and I think if that's what you want to do, more power to you. But at the same time, I think it's kind of a shame that people like that feel like they can't, I don't know, go and hang out with other trans people because they're too afraid they're going to be outed. But I guess that's a personal thing as well. But yes, anyway, back to my original point, and I guess it all kind of feeds in together. It's all like facets of this one true wayism type thing. But I think it's ridiculous to say that if you are a trans woman or a trans man, or you're non-binary in whatever whatever area of the non-binary bracket you fall into, I think it's ridiculous to say that you must look like X or you must do Y or whatever. I think that's kind of silly, because no two cis women look the same, they don't dress the same, they don't act the same, so why should it be the case for trans women or trans men? Why should that be the case? Like, I don't want to walk around being all super manly and butch at people. I don't give a shit about that. I don't give a shit about being stereotypical man. I don't want to go off and be a builder or, something like that. Like, that's not a road I want to go down. I don't want to feel forced into having to do that. And, I mean, I'm sure there is one true wayism in trans guys. I just don't encounter it as much. I have once or twice, but on the whole, I don't encounter it so much. Whereas, from a lot of the trans women I've met, not all of them, but quite a few, there's very much this one true wayism. And, like, the way I kind of feel, the way I feel about it is there is no one true way to be a human being. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to. There is no one true way. You shouldn't ever have to feel forced into doing that. And if you want to kind of go down the typically, stereotypical route, go nuts. But don't force other people to do it too. And don't say to everybody you should be doing X, Y, and Z, because it's bollocks. And this other thing as well, like, this is another discussion, this might be a long video, I'm sorry, this other discussion that came up a little while ago about trans people in the media, who are publicly out, and somebody was saying how it kind of made their lives difficult, and, whilst on the one hand they were just like, call your body parts and whatever and act however you want, but on the other hand they felt that they felt annoyed because this person was not representing their section of the trans community in the way that they wanted. And again, I think it comes back to this almost one true wayism thing. But they were saying that it kind of made their lives in some ways a little bit tricky because for that, their friends and family members were kind of looking up trans stuff and trans people, and of course these public figures were the ones that were going to come across first and things like that. And my response to this discussion, and again this is very much my own personal experiences, my response to this discussion was, well, I don't give a shit how other trans people present themselves in public. It's never affected my life particularly. It's not made my life any harder than it already is, whatever a publicly out trans person, let's say Buck Angel, for example, I have no idea what Buck Angel calls his body parts, but if, for example, Buck Angel was to label his body parts vagina or cunt, whatever, like, that doesn't affect me personally. Like, even if all my friends and family did go and look up what do trans guys call their bits, and Buck Angel fucking pops up. Like, that doesn't affect me personally. Like, maybe I'm just very good at picking my friends. I don't know. He says with a very smug grin. No, but maybe I'm just quite good at picking my friends and my family, because I have no qualms about that. But, you know, none of my friends and family have ever been that way. They've never kind of been like, oh, so I guess you must call your body parts X or X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, you know, they've never been like that. And with, I guess for me, there are some people who do know what I call my body parts, but most people don't ask, and they know better than to ask. And I think if you do ever encounter that kind of question or anything, you should be like, well, you answer that however you're comfortable. So if you're not comfortable answering, then say, well, I'm not comfortable answering that unless you're planning to have sex with me. You don't need to know that. And that's kind of how I approach it with some people. And then with very close friends, I'm like, yep, it's called whatever, you know. So that's my personal thoughts on it. But I don't care how more public trans people act and behave. Frankly, if they was, you know, if they tried to act the way that all trans people want them to act, they'd have to change themselves every 5 minutes, you know. And I can imagine, just from their point of view, that would be exhausting and annoying and shit. And yeah, I think I can kind of see why, as a marginalised community, you know, you want the best representation possible, so that the rest of the world will kind of see you in a positive way, in a more normal, like, but typical light. But frankly, no segment of the population has that kind of representation, and it, of course, it affects us in slightly different ways, and sometimes heavier ways. But yeah, basically, the whole point of this video is there's no one way of being trans or doing it. If you feel you want to get everything done, you want to get every single possible, you know, surgery or whatever done, go for it. If that's what you need to do to be happy and comfortable in your life, fucking do it. If, like me, for example, you only want to get hormones and a little bit of surgery done, great. If you just want hormones and a name change, marvellous. If you just want to change your name and the way you dress, brilliant. If you just don't want to do any of those things, but you still consider yourself to be trans, marvellous. Like, basically it's all good. It's whatever you're comfortable with at the end of the day. It's whatever you're happy with. As long as you're happy with your body. Some trans people out there that I've encountered, quite happy with the way their bodies are, don't feel the need to change it at all. You know, they'll maybe just ask for a change of pronouns or something, and that'll be it. They'll maybe transition in a more social way. They won't feel the need to do everything else. Like, there is no one true way, and none of these ways make you any less trans, and they don't. And doing it this way doesn't mean that you deserve to be treated any less of a person and a human being. And I think it's sad that there are these types of, you know, within our own community, there are these arguments. We're almost trying. I don't want to say marginalising each other, but sometimes it can kind of feel that way. And I think that's sad, and I think it's sad for any person who's just coming out, who's just really realising who they are and really getting to know themselves, and they're starting this journey. Like, I know when I first started, I felt enormous pressure to be a certain way, to do certain things, you know. And I really had to kind of go on my own journey and talk to a lot of people and kind of realise this can be quite problematic thinking, and I didn't want to add to that. So I very much just decided, I'm going to be me, I'm going to do it the way that feels comfortable and right for me. I'm going to talk to other people who may be doing it in a similar way, I'm going to talk to people who are doing it a different way. I'm going to see what is right for me. And this is the most important thing. And, you know, if you want to be stealth and you're not comfortable hanging out with other trans people, well, okay. That's your personal journey. That's your personal choice. Certainly I don't feel the need to be friends with every trans person I meet, because, okay, we have this thing in common, but I might think they're a massive dick, and they might think I'm a massive dick. You know. So, yeah, I have rambled for 15 minutes or so, and I can't really think of much else to add to this at this point. But if you do feel you would like to add anything to this video, whether it's comment or video response or anything like that, please do. You know, that would be cool. Please share your point of view. I want to hear everybody's point of view, how they feel about it. What you know, if you're comfortable sharing your personal journey, experiences, whatever, great. You know, I'm always happy to hear other people's point of view on this, and I'm always happy to hear about other people's journeys, and equally I'm always happy to share about mine. I'm quite open about these things. So anyway, have a great rest of the day. Those of you who have watched, share it around, let people know. If you think this is interesting, share it with people, and let's get a discussion going, because I think it would be really cool. I think it could be quite constructive. So have a lovely day, and yeah, I'll speak to you guys soon. See you later.